My freshman year of high school was a hard time in my life. My parents lost their business, they got divorced, and my dad moved out of the house. I was pretty depressed during this time, and I had low self-esteem. I didn't care about school, and I received D's and F's. But one day, one of my teachers noticed something was wrong, and she gave me some helpful advice. She told me that I was too worried about what was beyond my control, and that what I had to focus on was what I knew was in my own control. This inspired me, and soon I raised my grades and I had a positive attitude. My main character, Mr. Wolf, discovers that in the midst of negative things, that his hope lies within himself. My story is Mr. Wolf's Pancakes by Pam Fearonley. Mr. Wolf lived in a lovely and peaceful village that had many round green hills. The sun shone so bright, it warmed the soil, and many colorful flowers bloomed. Mr. Wolf was a big and heavy wolf, and he had thick, dark brown fur. One morning, Mr. Wolf was hungry, and he decided he wanted to make some pancakes.
Yum, yum,
he said, licking his lips at the thought of a big pile of fresh, delicious pancakes. Mr. Wolf had never made pancakes before, so he grabbed his recipe book down off the shelf and looked inside. But wolves aren't very good at reading, and Mr. Wolf was having trouble understanding it. So he decided to call on his neighbors for some help. Chicken Little, who lived next door, was a short, fat chicken with white, bushy feathers. She knew how to read, so Mr. Wolf called on her for some help.
Chicken Little, can you please help me to read my recipe book?
No! I'm busy watching my baby chicks.
She slammed her door in Mr. Wolf's face. Bang!
Oh dear,
sighed Mr. Wolf. He sat down at his house, slowly read the book, and worked out what he needed, all by himself. Now Mr. Wolf was looking in his kitchen cupboard for the ingredients, but he couldn't find anything that he needed.
I'll go to the store,
he decided. So he tried to write a shopping list and count his money. But wolves aren't very good at writing or counting. Mr. Wolf knew the Gingerbread Man was good at both, so he called on him for some help. Now, the Gingerbread Man was a tiny little man who had a baked, rich, dark brown color, and he sparkled with sugar. Mr. Gingerbread Man answered his door.
What do you want, Mr. Wolf?
He shouted.
Hello, Gingerbread Man. I was trying to get ingredients for pancakes, but I'm having trouble counting my money and writing a shopping list. Can you help me to do this?
No! I'm too busy to bother with you!
He slammed his door in Mr. Wolf's face. Bang! Oh. Mr. Wolf had to walk back to his house and slowly count his money and write his grocery list. It took him a long time to do it, but he did it, all by himself. Mr. Wolf walked to the grocery store to buy his ingredients. The cashier who worked there, Mrs. Lovejoy, was a cute little old lady who wore a faded green apron, and she had silvery white hair. She noticed Mr. Wolf was upset.
You look upset, Mr. Wolf. What's the matter?
Well, I asked Chicken Little to help me read my recipe book, but he refused and slammed his door in my face. I asked the Gingerbread Man kindly to help me count my money and write a grocery list, but he said no and didn't want to help me. I feel hopeless because nobody wants to help me.
Now, Mr. Wolf, don't let these people keep you from making pancakes. I believe in you, and you must believe in yourself.
Why, thank you, Mrs. Lovejoy. That was very kind of you.
Mr. Wolf bought his ingredients and then went back to his house. Now it was time to make the pancakes. But wolves aren't very good at cooking food. So Mr. Wolf had to call on the three little pigs for some help. He knocked on each one of those 3 short, plump, pink pigs' doors and kindly asked them,
"Can you please help me to cook my pancakes? I'll share them with you."
Forget about it.
They slammed their doors in Mr. Wolf's face. Bang, bang, bang.
Oh, well.
Mr. Wolf was very sad. All the response he was getting from his neighbors were doors being slammed in his face. Similarly, in his own mind, Mr. Wolf was shutting out the hope he had. But then he remembered what that nice, sweet little old lady, Mrs. Lovejoy, told him, and how she believed in him. Mr. Wolf still had one door left open, the door of his own house, and he walked through that door determined to work hard to make those pancakes. Soon, there was a huge pile of steaming, buttery pancakes on the table. Now, as Mr. Wolf had been making the pancakes, a lovely smell had drifted out of the kitchen. All the neighbors could smell it, and this made them very hungry. They wanted some pancakes too, so they decided to try their luck. This time they were knocking on Mr. Wolf's door. Mr. Wolf answered.
Give us some of your pancakes,
Shouted the rude bunch.
"Why should I give any to you? Not one of you would want to help me."
Yeah, but we'll help you eat them.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere until you give us some.
Mr. Wolf thought very hard for a moment. He knew he had only one decent thing to do. This is what he told his nasty neighbors.
"You are not having any pancakes. I worked hard to make them, and I'm going to eat them. Goodbye."
Bang! He slammed his door in their faces. Now, Mr. Wolf then walked to his kitchen, sat down at his table, poured a ton of maple syrup on his stack of pancakes, and ate each and every one of them. They were the most delicious pancakes Mr. Wolf had ever eaten. And Mr. Wolf was happy now and satisfied with what he had accomplished.